This is a Bees and Reverie Radio News Short. I'm Emily Wayland, recording this on March 7th, 2025. In some rare good news these days, the Eastern Monarch butterfly population nearly doubled over the last year. Specifically, the monarch butterfly population wintering in central Mexico's forest occupied 4.2 acres, up from 2.2 acres during the previous winter. Now, this is also measured in the metric measurement of hectares, or the equivalent of 2.47 acres. So in hectares, the population was measured at 1.79 hectares, up from 0.9 hectares the year before. The lowest population ever measured was in the winter of 2013 and 2014 at 0.67 hectares. Now, this data comes from a survey titled Forest Area Occupied by Monarch Butterfly Colonies in Mexico during the 2024 to 2025 hibernation season. This survey is conducted annually by Mexico's National Commission of Protected Natural Areas, along with international NGOs like the World Wildlife Fund, and in collaboration with local communities. People like me eagerly await these population numbers every year because they give us some of the best information we have about how monarch butterflies are doing. I want to briefly share with you what this news means, what it doesn't mean, and why I am still worried. And perhaps most importantly, I want to talk about what we can all do right now to help save monarch butterflies no matter where we live in the United States. As you may know, monarch butterflies make an incredible journey every year. At the end of summer, they migrate from the northern United States and southern Canada, flying all the way to mountain forests in Mexico. Some travel nearly 3,000 miles. And then after winter, these same butterflies fly hundreds of miles back north to the United States to lay their eggs on milkweed plants, where their babies will grow and migrate north for the summer. It is an incredible multi-generational journey that crosses two international borders. And in fact, monarch butterflies are the only butterfly that accomplishes a two-way migration. So back to this news about the Eastern monarch population and what it means. So while the Eastern monarch population occupied nearly twice as much forest habitat as last year, and this is great news, monarch butterfly populations still remain far below the long-term average. And this is due to reasons you might guess, including habitat loss, overuse of insecticides and herbicides, disease, and climate change. Specifically, habitat loss refers to loss of milkweed in the United States due to suburban and agricultural development, but also due to large-scale use of some genetically modified crops interfering with the natural habitats, and the loss of the forests in both the U.S. and Mexico that monarchs rely on, particularly for their overwintering forests in Mexico. Monarchs need large, healthy forests to protect them from winds, rain, and low nighttime temperatures. So it is good news that the population increased over the last year. I can't tell you how relieved I felt to see these numbers yesterday. These numbers mean that some of the work that governments, organizations, and individuals have been doing over the past 12 months does make a difference. Working to protect their habitat, both forests and milkweeds, planting more milkweed, and protecting the butterflies and their habitat from pesticide and herbicide use. According to Monarch Joint Venture, for every 29 milkweed plants in our landscape, one fall migratory adult monarch is produced. So to reach an ideal population of 127 million butterflies, a total of 3.6 billion milkweed stems are needed across the monarch's breeding range. Monarch Joint Venture has also stated that the population must reach an average measurement of 6 hectares every winter in order to be what is considered a self-sustaining population. Now, based on my anecdotal experience last summer and based on some data that I had seen from various chapters from the Monarch Larva Monitoring Project, I did not expect this outcome. I personally expected a decline due to the severe and extreme weather events in 2024. So if you've been following the podcast here, you'll all know that we recently had devastating news about the Western monarch population. The annual report on the Western monarch populations showed a 90% decline from the previous year, and their numbers in the West are now the second lowest since the tracking began in 1997. Additionally, yesterday, on March 6th of 2025, the same day that the Eastern monarch population numbers were released, National Geographic posted a sobering article sharing news that 1 in 5 butterflies in the United States has disappeared over the past 20 years. The National Geographic article refers to a study that is not just about monarchs, but all butterflies in the U.S. They are writing about a landmark study published in the journal Science that says that total butterfly abundance in the United States has declined by 22% across all species between the years 2000 and 2020. Researchers identified over 100 butterfly species that have dropped by more than 50% in the last 2 decades, and I agree with the National Geographic subheadline that says, quote, "This is a wake-up call." So, what can we all do right now and throughout the rest of this year? The good news is that there are things we can do, and the Eastern Monarch numbers show us that we can make a difference. I'm going to tell you 3 actions that you can take right now. And in the show notes of this episode, I will put links to the WWF report on the Eastern Monarch butterfly counts and to the National Geographic article if you want to see charts and read more details on your own. But let me finish this news short now with what we can do. Number 1, you can participate in a public comment period that is open right now to anyone in the U.S. to support a proposal by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to list the monarch butterfly as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. Every comment in support of this proposal makes a difference. I'll include a link for you to do that in the show notes, as well as a link to an open letter by the Xerces Society where you can sign on and they will send their letter with your signature on it to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as a comment. Number 2, the Endangered Species Act itself is under attack right now by some Republican members of Congress. Everyone, no matter who your federal members of Congress are, can call your 2 senators and your representative in the House and tell them to stand up against any threat to dismantle the Endangered Species Act. I'll put a link in the show notes where you can find the contact information for your members of Congress. And on our social media accounts, I will share more information about this, including a call script over the next few days. And number 3, make a commitment this year to do one of these things locally. Start a pesticide-free pollinator garden in your yard that includes milkweed that's native to your area, and or volunteer locally for a native plant restoration project. We have covered all 3 of these issues and actions in other episodes and shorts of our podcast this season here on Bees and Reverie Radio. If you want to go deeper into any of these, check those out. And all of that is here waiting for you. And lastly, if you found this news short helpful, please leave a review for our podcast because it helps others who are interested in these same topics find us. Thank you for listening to the Bees and Reverie Radio podcast.